to go all the way through. There's 2 emails. One has 2 Word documents in it and a PowerPoint. And then the third one is a PDF. So there's 2 different emails coming. All right, let's go. Today we're talking about prospecting and marketing for sellers. So what I want to do is I want to focus on seller leads today. Next week, as we wrap up advanced prospecting and marketing, we're going to talk about buyers, okay? How to get buyers, how to find them, how to prospect and market to them. And that'll lead us into May, which will be buyer mastery, all right? So today we're all about sellers and how are we going to be prospecting for sellers. So we talked last week about the fact that you have to have a schedule. You have to put your activities into time. If you block the activities that you want to do and put them into time blocks each week, you're going to be very successful because you're going to have consistent results. Today, I want to talk specifically about the activities that you would do to prospect for sellers. Now, in today's COVID market, we are still encumbered a little bit by the fact that, you know, door knocking is a little bit of a hit and miss or iffy, although we do anticipate that to change very soon. As we've talked about before, we hope by July we will have opportunities for marketing open houses and door knocking, inviting neighbors to open houses and being able to get out into the field more. But right now you are limited with phones and email and social media. Okay, so we always say to keep a seller engaged, you have to call them, you have to mail to them, you have to email them, you have to social media friend them and post to them, and you have to see them in person. So for those of you who are doing calls, I'm super proud of you because that is the best way to get started. Our biggest agents in our office, that's how they built their listing businesses, by calling. Some of you are doing door knocking, again, you know, with caution, and you want to make sure that whatever that activity is that you're trying to get sellers in is consistent. All right. Now, whether you're doing a farm or whether you're doing circle prospecting, remember those 2 things we talked about last week? A farm is where you have a geographic area that has been identified and you're going through that area and cycling it through. If you have a geographic farm, whether it's 500, 1,000, 2,500, you have to fall in love with your farm. You have to fall in love with your farm. Realize that there will be 5 homes for every 100. That means for every 1,000 in your farm, there will be 50 listings. 50. For every 500 in your farm, there will be 25 listings going on the market this year. And it's very important that you go into the MLS and you do a little circle map of your farm so you can actually do a radius search. And every month you look and see what closed and what's active. So you want to make sure you're tracking against that total number of 5%. So for example, if you have a little farm of 500, that means 25 homes are going to sell. You want to get your fair share of those homes that are going to come on the market. So it's important that you measure it. If you don't measure it, you're flying blind. So you need to know how many homes have already sold in the first quarter. And by doing a little radius map search and keeping that as a saved search, you can just record it for close dates in the last 90 days. That'll tell you closed in the last 90 days in that little search box. Will tell you exactly how many homes in your farm closed. Then when you get to the end of April, you'll run a search in May that says closed in the last 120 days. And then at the end of May, closed in the last 150 days. So you are keeping tabs on how many are closing each month cumulatively, so you know how many opportunities you still have left. So for example, if I have a little baby farm of 500, and there's only going to be 25 listings, and in the first quarter, 8 of them have already sold, that means there's only 17 left that are going to go on the market. So you really got to do your work and get out there and be the realtor of choice in your neighborhood. Now, when you're calling, you have a much larger ability to go a lot wider, right? So it's really important that you're managing this and looking at it carefully. But on average, for every 100 seller names in your database, 5 of those people are going to go on the market this year. Again, out of every 100 names in your seller database, 500. I mean, 5 are going on the market. So you can really understand what your pipeline looks like by just making sure you get through those calls. The more people you put into the database that you've spoken to, the better it is. All right. So let's talk about dialogue. In the Google Drive, I have a script, a very simple script. We have lots of scripts. I have a script catalog. I have a Keller Williams script catalog. I have 2 other script catalogs, and I have a very simple Word document that has a very, very simple script. You need to make sure you internalize your opening dialogue. This is super, super important. So this is the most important part of being ready to call. So if you're going to do circle prospecting, for example, let's say you're looking in a specific neighborhood and you've got 3 or 4 buyers interested in this neighborhood. So you can take a little radius, circle prospect within that area, look for the phone numbers. You want to find those phone numbers. Title can help you with quite a bit of them, but you also have to do your own research and going on to people search sites, whether they be paid or free, to find phone numbers. Okay. So your goal would be to start making those phone calls in the guise of looking for something for a specific buyer. So let's say you have a buyer who wants to buy in Valley Village, okay? And you want to open up a little call log for that area. So you figure out your streets that you want. The title people can give you as many phone calls as they can, phone numbers as they can. You look up the rest and you start those dials. So you've got to prepare for your calling. You can't just randomly wake up in the morning and start making those calls. You have to prepare. You have to prepare the phone numbers, okay? And then you begin the dialogue. And it's a very simple phone call, everyone. And all you have to do is when they answer the phone, say, "Hi, is this Jim Jones speaking?" "Yes, it is." "Great, Jim. I'm calling on about the property on 1429 Hesby. We have several families that are looking in this neighborhood. I'm your local realtor and was wondering if you've been considering selling your home now or in the future." That's one potential dialogue, right? Or, "Hello, is this Jim Smith? Hi. This is Veronica Fiorella from Keller Williams Realty. I'm your local neighborhood realtor, and we have many families looking in this neighborhood. I was wondering if you've considered selling your home this year." "No, I'm not interested in selling my home." "Well, I totally understand. You have a beautiful neighborhood. How many years have you lived there?" The goal is the minute they shut you down, you've got to try to keep the engagement going. And the easiest way to transition from, "We've got families looking in your neighborhood. Would you consider selling your home now or in the future?" And they say, "No, not interested." Say, "Well, I totally understand. It's a beautiful neighborhood, Mr. Jones. How long have you lived there?" Keep them engaged. And that's the simplest hook to keep a seller on the phone. "Well, absolutely. It's a beautiful neighborhood. How long have you lived there?" "We've been here 30 years. "Well, that's terrific. Well, I'd love to see if I can stay in touch with you." So once you transition from the hook basically keeps them on the phone for 10 to 15 seconds longer so that you can transition to, "Well, if it's okay with you, I'd love to send you updates on the area and let you know what's going on in your neighborhood and what prices are selling for." Or you switch to, "I'd love to send you a market evaluation of what your home is worth. I know you're not interested in selling right now, but you can hold on to it. And if you ever have any questions, give me a call." Because when you're trying to send someone a CMA who's not interested in selling, you need their permission. Okay, you need their permission. So you don't need their permission to put them on an email list as long as they say, "Yes, I'm interested in what you're sending." But it's very important. You can't just randomly send somebody something. So when you transition from, "Oh, how long have you lived there?" "We've been here 30 years. "Well, that's wonderful, Mr. Jones. Well, it's a great neighborhood. If anything ever changes, we'd love to talk. If it's okay with you, I'd love to either A, put you on my quarterly mailing list. I send out updates to everybody on what's going on in the neighborhood. If you'd like that email, I'd be happy to send it to you." That's one option. Or switch to, "I'd love to send you a free evaluation of what your home is worth," if that's okay with you. And then I know you're not interested, but you can just hold on to it. And if you have any questions, you're welcome to call me. Now, see, you're asking for permission to either get his email, put him on a list, or send him a CMA in the mail. You have to connect something to end the call. You can't just say, "Oh, great, have a great day." Okay, so I know that when you're first calling, you're a little nervous, so you have to warm yourself up. You have to get used to it. You have to not be afraid. Not be afraid. Because for every 97 no's, there are 3 yeses. Or actually, every 95 no's, there's 5 yeses. So your job is every call you make is a connection. And if you make a connection and you're able to send something to them, that's trigger that allows you to now cultivate that relationship. All right, I'm going to stop right now and ask if there's any questions about this. Unmute yourself if you have a question before I move on, because I'm moving through a lot of stuff today.
Veronica, I have a question. So
Yeah.
if I have emails, I have to have their permission to use their email. I can't just randomly send.
No, there isn't a law about that. That's a great question, Nancy. It's not that, but if you're actually having a conversation with them, you certainly want to let them know that you'd like to send something to them. So there isn't a spam law, so to speak, against email marketing, right? Because
Right.
if it's a public email or publicly readily available to be acquired, you can send it. There isn't any type of do not call legislation with the FCC with regards to that. It's just more of a courtesy. If you're actually having a dialogue with someone, you don't want to start randomly sending them things, right? So you want to be able to say, you know, and I always lead with CMA. To me, CMA is the single most important thing you can mail to somebody after you hang up the phone, right? Even if they don't agree with the price. Of course, we don't like giving CMAs without seeing the home, right? Of course, you need to see the interior of the home, but there's a lot of ways you can give someone a range, and I'll get to that in a minute, how you can give someone a range of pricing of what their home is currently worth. That is collateral material that they will not throw away. Okay? So that's the better hook. If it's okay with you, Mr. Jones, I'd love to send you a market evaluation of what your home is worth. And you can just hold on to it, and they could say, no, thank you. I don't want that. Well, that's fine. I hope you have a great day. I'd love to stay in touch with you. You know, if it's okay, I'd love to check in once in a while, see how things are going. Hope you have a wonderful day. Goodbye. Okay. So you've really got to make sure you come to closure with what they're willing and not willing to accept from you after that phone call. But no, there's no law against sending them an email, putting them on a drip. Okay. It's just that when you're actually having a conversation, it really does help a little bit to at least transition to some permissive use. Okay. And if you don't want to go with the email route, which a lot of our agents use the email route, hey, I'd love to put you on my email list. We send out reports on what sells, right?
I've been doing the,
if you don't want to go that route.
Yeah. I've been saying, can I put you on my email list to send out, you know, information?
Yeah, I mean, that is one route. The other route is, can I send you a market evaluation? I'd love to send you a free market evaluation of what your home is worth. Okay. And then you can just hold on to it. If you have any questions, give me a call. That's permission to, can I mail you a package, right? Okay. And sometimes that tends to be a little easier than, can I put you on my email list, okay? So either one works. It really is a personal decision, okay, of which one. And I would try both and play with both, right? To see which one starts to resonate with you. But you need a closing hook. You can't just say, oh, thanks, goodbye. You've got to get over your fear and get into your dialogue. And that's why mastering your script is critical, right? Mastering scripts are critical. You know, I was very successful as a mega agent with getting listings 1 year, 2 years, 3 years after I met the person. Some of our biggest agents, they get phone calls 4 years later. So when you're building a pipeline, it's that first call that begins the relationship. But here's what most agents do. They make the call, they hang up the phone, and nothing goes to the client. So when they call 6 months later, the client doesn't remember who you are, right? They don't recall the conversation. So that now leads me to the next part. Everyone thinks that the scripts are so difficult. They're not. You type up or put on an index card how you want your opening to sound. And again, there's a Word doc in the Google Drive, and you'll see it. It's highlighted in green and yellow. And it is, if you go to the Google Drive link, Advanced Prospecting and Marketing folder, you will see a Word doc that's highlighted in green and yellow. It's a really cute little script. Simple and easy. Don't overcomplicate your script, okay? You're not here to objection handle. You're just here to try to get into the first foot in the door, right? So just, it really does work. Our office has lots of families looking to buy in this neighborhood. Have you considered selling your home now or in the future? Okay, that's it. Simple opening. Hi, this is Nancy Martin at Keller Williams Realty. Hope you're having a great day today. Listen, we have many families in our office looking to buy in the Valley Village community. And I was wondering, Mr. Jones, if you consider selling your home now or in the future. That's it. Done. That's your opening sentence. And then he's going to say no. And you're going to say, well, I totally understand. You live in a beautiful neighborhood. How many years have you been there? Now, he'll either engage with you or he'll hang up the phone. Okay. If he engages with you, he'll say 22 years. Oh, that's amazing. Wonderful. Well, good for you. Well, Mr. Jones, I'd love to see if I can stay in touch with you. And if it's okay with you, I'd love to send you a free market evaluation of what your home is worth. You can just hold on to it. If you have any questions, you can give me a call. And I really appreciate your time today. Thanks so much. Have a great day. If you want to go that route, if you want to go that, I'd like to put you on my email, my quarterly email list. I send out the reports of what sells in your neighborhood. Go that route. Try them until you figure out which one works for you. Can you do both? Of course you can do both. If they say, no, I'm not going to let you put me on the email list, then okay, would you like a free market evaluation mailed out? I like permissive use with that phone call because it's more personable. Any questions beyond that? Okay.
Veronica, I have a question.
Yes, Julie.
So in the event of a seller or a person answering their phone and they say, how did you get my phone number?
Oh, okay, that's a great question. We get that a lot, right?
Yes,
Well,
I've often played it off and said white pages.
Well, the phone numbers are, they're all readily available from our, title and public searches. We get them from public searches, So you don't have to make a big deal about it. It's not like it's illegal unless you call somebody on the do not call list. Then you're going to get a $3,000 fine, right?
I've been casual and said, well, white pages. You're on the white pages. I just looked at the
you can say
address
that. You're on the
you
white page direct. You're on the white page directory. Sure, whatever you want to say.
What do you suggest a person say then if they say, well, I would like you not to call me again?
Yeah. You have to be very respectful of that. That's super important. Well, absolutely, Mr. Jones. We will take you off of our list. I hope you have a wonderful day. Okay? Absolutely. If they say do not call me again, you delete them. And I have a do not call, like in my command, I'll have a list called do not call, because just to make sure I don't come across the name again. But it's very important that you remove them. Okay?
Right on. Okay, thank you.
Super important. Absolutely. Any other questions before I move on? Okay, so guys, don't over.
Sorry, Veronica, quick question.
Yes, Kiana.
The do not call, is that like a tag in your command, or do you have like a whole separate list?
No, I just have a do not call tag.
Okay, a tag. Okay.
Yeah, just a tag in command called do not call. I make it white and I just tag it onto somebody and it says do not call, and I just don't call.
Thanks.
Okay? Absolutely.
I have
And if someone does say that, you're supposed to make sure Demetra has the name and the phone number, right? So that she can add them to the office do not call list. Okay? All right. All right.
Hey,
So,
Veronica,
yes.
I've got a question that goes along with that. Okay, so somebody says they don't want to be called. Would you mail to them?
That's a great question. Have I done it? Yes, I've mailed to them. If they don't want to be called, I will still send postcards to that person because I spoke to
Somebody's
them.
going to get that listing. So
Yeah,
if
someone's
they
going to
don't
get the
wanna be
listing,
called,
yes. There's nothing illegal about that. If someone calls you and says, stop sending me mail and postcards, then of course, do not call, do not mail, right?
Okay, all right, very good,
Yeah.
thanks.
Great question. Okay, let's keep going, everybody. Please demystify this for yourselves. Scripts are not difficult, but if you don't type it on an index card or type it on a piece of paper and really keep using it until it sounds like you, that's called internalizing a script. You take the gist of what someone gives you, and there's so many great scripts. If you look in the scripts catalog, there are amazing amounts of scripts out there. And Magdalena, I'll get to your question in just a moment, okay? Thanks. If you call a wrong number, get rid of it until you find a new number. You keep looking. When you're on a people search, you can find 5 or 6 phone numbers. You keep dialing until you get the ones that are correct, and that'll be the primary number that you put in command. And then I put the rest of the numbers under additional contact. There's an additional contact section, and then you add the rest of the phone numbers that you think might be theirs in there. But if it's a wrong number, of course, get it out of there and see if you can find a new one. All right, so this script is really important, and you need to practice it until it sounds like you. You rewrite it until it sounds like you. That's called internalizing your script. Don't sound like someone else if it doesn't sound like you. Work the sentence so that it sounds like you would talk, because you're not going to do it if it doesn't sound like you, right? Even down to the adjectives and the adverbs. You need to make sure that the script sounds like you, all right? Now, here is where everyone misses the boat on long-term nurture. People make their calls and then they don't do anything with the calls. So I want to talk about this because this is more of a psychological thing than anything else. Many of you have been in my class called Quantum Leap, right? Where we do mindset and visualization and getting in the right zone in the morning and making sure you are affirming and doing all your visualizations, your affirmations, staying in the positive mindset, letting those things fall off that feel negative, really getting yourself into the right place, right, guys? Because 90% of this business is right here, right here. 10% is execution. 90% is here, 10% is execution. And if you can understand that, it's really, really important, okay? So having said that, cold calling, warm calling, door knocking, these are all what are called anchoring activities, right? An anchoring activity is an activity in which you're focused. And if you have a positive mindset, you get up in the morning and you do your affirmations and you get into the right place psychologically. It doesn't matter if you make 10 calls or 100 calls. The better your mindset is, the higher your conversion rate is. We know that. If you are having positive expectations and you're keeping your personal life in check and you're creating really strong abundance mentality, you can make 10 calls and get the same results that 100 calls would give you. So that's why I don't tell people how many calls to make every day. When you're doing your prospecting, you're the one that has to determine, am I going to dial 50 people? Am I going to not stop till I talk to 10? Am I going to go through a letter of the alphabet? I don't care. You just have to have a process. So if you're calling an area, finish the area. Maybe it'll take you 5 weeks to finish an area, but finish it. It's an anchoring activity. If you give up after a week and then jump to another area and then jump to another area, well, you're not quite doing an anchoring activity. An anchoring activity means you're staying focused in something for a while. So let's say you've got a list of 100 calls to make. I don't care if it takes you 2 weeks, finish the 100 calls. Okay, then you can go on up your database, which we'll get to in just a second. Everybody clear about that? It's an anchoring activity. So don't just start it and plop around and start jumping around. If you're going to pick a 6-block radius to call because you have 5 buyers all looking in this area, then stay with that 6-block radius until you finish it, minus the phone numbers you can't find, of course. Okay, now, what makes it into the database, so that your database doesn't get too gnarly, what makes it into the database are the people that you've actually spoken to, okay? And we call those seller mets or farm mets. If you don't have a tag in your command called seller met, please make one. All capitals, the word seller dash met, okay? If you're doing an actual farm, then farm dash met. Most of you should have that. If you have multiple farms, then be very careful. If you're doing multiple geographic areas, then it would be farm, the name of the farm, either zip code or neighborhood name, and then farm, neighborhood name, met. So you always have to have a met for every area you're doing, okay? It's really, really important. So if you're just grabbing a random list and you've got an Excel spreadsheet and you're working off that, that's fine. Totally fine. But if you've got a farm that you're working on, you're going to want to make sure you understand 2 things. I spoke to them and they don't want to sell. I spoke to them and they might want to sell. Everybody clear? These are very different people, but they get treated the same way in the marketing side, but they're very different answers. I am not interested in selling. They go under met, seller met. Means I've spoken to them or I've met them in person. If they are interested in selling, they're a seller prospect. They're very different. However, what people do is they call all these people who are not interested in selling and they just forget about them. And what happens is life happens. They get a promotion at work and have to relocate to the West Side. They have a divorce. They have a child. They have a passing away in the family. They have a marriage. There are all kinds of life events that happen that are not predictable at the moment you made that call with them. So when they say, no, I'm not interested, as long as they weren't horrific to you, of course, we don't want to be dealing with people who aren't pleasant, but you want to be able to put them into the database and market to them via mail. Okay. So even if you're not a farmer and you don't farm, when you're mailing to the seller prospects and the seller mets, I guarantee you that consistency of the mailing and then layering the email and then layering the social media, you will get that call. When it's time for them to sell, you will get that call because you have now cemented the relationship with what is called collateral material. And this is where 80% of agents in the market fail in cold calling. They only put the people in that want to sell. And that's wonderful. That's your pipeline, right? That's your pipeline for the year. Yeah, I might be selling at the end of the year. Wonderful. You're trying to get on to an appointment with them, of course. Some of them won't let you come over right away because they're not ready. Some of them will, right? So let's have the conversation with the guy that might be interested. So, hi, Mr. Jones. This is Veronica calling from Keller Williams Realty. How are you today? Listen, I'm your local neighborhood realtor, and we have many families in our office that are looking in your neighborhood. Have you considered selling your home now or in the future? Well, you know, come to think of it, you know, me and my wife might be moving next year. My daughter graduates from college in May of 2022, and we might be moving to Carpinteria. Oh, that's wonderful. What a beautiful place, right? Whenever you're dialoguing, you make a positive comment and then the next question. Positive comment, next question. That's wonderful. Carpinteria is a beautiful place. Well, good for you. Do you have a place out there already? No, we're going to buy something after we sell the house. Well, that's absolutely wonderful, Mr. Jones. Thanks for sharing that with me. If it's okay with you, I'd love to send you an evaluation of what your house is worth. Unless you'd like me to swing by, I'll be happy to stop by and give you a real number. And no, it's too soon. We're not ready yet, but if you want to send something to me in the mail, that's fine. Well, sure, Mr. Jones. Well, thank you so much for taking my call today. Love to get something out in the mail to you. You can give me a call when you receive it. I'll be happy to review it with you on the phone. And congratulations on, planning the next event in your life, and wish you all the best, and we'll be in touch. Okay. And then you can just, get going. If you don't have an email, try to get that email. Right? If you don't have an email, try to get the email. Anyone who raises their hand, even a little bit, that they're going to sell, you want to engage. You want to get something out to them. You want to see if you can get that email address. You can always say, I'd love to email you a market evaluation of what your home is worth, and then at least you know what it's worth today, and then we can update that as you get closer. Is that okay with you? Yeah, sure. If you want to send me something, that's fine. But we're not going to even start interviewing agents until next March. Totally understand, Mr. Jones. What's a good email address where I can send that? What's a good email address where I can send the market evaluation? Don't say, what's your email address? That puts them on the defensive. What's a good email address where I can send the blank? Okay, whatever it is you're sending. What's a good email address where I can send the blank? And they give it to you. Great. Well, I will get that off to you in the next 24 hours. And again, I thank you so much for your time today. Now, if they're pleasant and wanting to engage a little bit more, there are a couple of important things you want to ask them. Anybody want to know what those are? Or anybody want to throw out what those are? A couple of things. Those of you who do a lot of these, you want to answer this? What would you ask him about his house so you can give him the best price possible without having to go on the inside?
He's done any updates or?
Yes. Thanks so much. Excellent, John. So, hey, have you done any upgrades to the home? Have you remodeled anything since you've lived there? Right? And let them tell you what they did. I always like to say, how long have you been in the home? Right? If we haven't already had that conversation. How many years have you guys been there? Oh, we've been here 25 years. Wow, that's amazing. Remember, positive comment before the next question. If you want this tennis match to keep going back and forth, you've got to do positive comment, next question. Same thing as if you're in social farming and you're in a party. Positive comment, next question. Well, that's wonderful. Wow, you have been there a long time. That's terrific. Good for you. And have you done any upgrades to the home? Oh, that's wonderful. That's terrific. You've got to, wow, that's great. What kind of material did you use on the floor? Oh, that's great. Engage them. So besides the how long have you been there and what upgrades have you had, what would be a really important question for those of you who are more seasoned can answer? Anybody?
Well, I farmed for the first time yesterday, and when people just start talking to me about their life without me asking them, and then but when they talked about their kids, I asked them if their kids live around nearby. So I thought it might be if they are younger and they have children, younger children, it might be a good indication for them maybe moving away closer to the children soon.
Okay. All right, sure. You can ask them if they have children that are in the area, of course. It just depends on how much you want to dive in, and it depends on their personality and how much they want to let you in on that conversation.
I didn't ask them if they have children in the area. They told me that they have children, and then I asked them if they live in the area.
Okay, great. Wonderful. That's terrific. Well, thank you so much for that. Appreciate that. All right. So upgrades, how long have you been there? If you want to talk about family in the area. And for those of you who are really want to go in for the kill, you ask the famous question, how much do you owe on the house right now? Okay. And they'll ask, why would you want to know that? Right. Some people will tell you, some people will not. It's depending on the relationship that you're developing on the phone. Right. That's a pre-listing question. If you're going on a listing appointment, you need to know that. Right. So you can give them a net sheet. Otherwise, what's the point? They're not going to look at anything unless they know one thing. What's the one thing they want to know? They don't want to know how much their house is worth. What do they want to know?
How much money they're going to make?
That's it. That is the only thing they want to know, folks. You can give them any listing price you want. The point is, at the end of the day, they only care about how much they're going to net. That's how they're going to make a decision. All right. So again, for those of you who are newer in the business, you don't have to go there yet. But as you get more seasoned, when you go on an appointment, you've got to have some idea, right? So let's go back to that dialogue, okay? Because when you give them a net sheet, they're going to go right to the net sheet. So you give them a suggested pricing, you give them a net sheet, they're going to go right to the net sheet. They're going to look right away at what they would net on the home. Again, you don't have to do that. A lot of agents don't. I'd say 50% of agents provide a net sheet, 50% of agents don't. It's a personal thing. So whatever you're comfortable with, right? So
Veronica, can I ask you a question? I'm one of those agents who hasn't provided a net sheet, but I do think I should start doing it. What is the best way to get a net sheet together for your listing presentation?
Tracy, that's a great question, and you're one of the biggest agents here in the Valley, and you've been very successful for many years, right? And one of the things that I like to do, of course, our escrow company can provide a net sheet, but what I like to do, because it's a little premature, right? We're way out. In my listing mastery class, listing mastery, seller mastery, on the Google Drive, there is a net sheet. Did all of you know that in zip forms, there's a cute little net sheet? It's really nice. It's called Estimated Seller Proceeds. Again, in zip forms, it's called Estimated Seller Proceeds. And I teach a class on how to talk about it, what goes into it. So that class won't be coming till June, but I will tell you that there is a sample of an estimated seller proceeds sheet that you can use. And if you are doing one, I can help you set one up in your zip forms and fill in all the right numbers. And then all you have to do is change the list price choices and a couple little tweaks, and you've got a net sheet. So you save it in your template in zip forms, and you now have a net sheet that has pretty much all the correct and accurate numbers in it. I even include like an estimate for budget for repairs. And so you can definitely, you don't have to do that, of course, when you're this far away from a listing, but the net sheet is really valuable because you can put your title, your escrow, your 9A retrofit, your payoff of the loan, and it really gives them a real good number, and it's really accurate. It's really accurate. So yes, estimated seller proceeds. You can just reach out to me via email. Any of you can send an email to veronica@kw.com, and I will reply with a sample. And it's also in the Google Drive under seller or listing mastery. All right, great question. They love that net sheet, boy. They go right to that, I'll tell you. And what it does is it opens a dialogue. They'll call you in 3 days and say, hey, this is Jim Jones. You called me the other day. I just got your package in the mail and I looked at this and frankly, I think you're way too low on the number that you think my house has got all of these blah, blah, blah. Well, Mr. Jones, that was just an estimate because I haven't been able to see the inside. If I can see the inside of your home, I can give you an exact number. Guess what? You're going to get into the inside of the home. Okay. He's going to say, well, why don't you come over and take a look at it? So that opens a dialogue. That's why the CMA package is so fabulous. And again, for those of you who don't want to do that, that's up to you. But someone else is going to get to them if you don't send something to them. And you can send something as simple as the listing book, which Miss Whitney, have you been able to get my emails yet? I think she might be answering the phone. Whitney, when you can, hop on or unmute yourself. I'm wondering if she's been able to. Did anybody see anything in the chat box yet?
Yeah, she sent them in the chat box.
Okay. All right. And again, we'll email those out to all of you. Anybody wants them resent, email me after class and I will reply. Okay. I will reply. Veronica Fiorella, I'll just type my email in here so everyone's got it. And then I will reply with the documents. And we're going to go ahead and do a screen share right now. There you go. That's my email address. Okay. So let's keep going because I don't want to run out of time today. All right. So we're having a dialogue. They're somewhat interested. Their daughter's going to graduate in May of 22. A year later. You try to get that package out. So whatever the package is, you need to get a package out. All right. So now I'm going to screen share with all of you what's in the chat box. Okay. Here we go. I'm starting the screen share. All right. And I'm going to go ahead and move this over here. And I'm going to show you the two types of letters. Ready? And they're also in the Google Drive. These are simple letters. Do you want to do them in handwritten notes? Absolutely. If you feel like doing a handwritten note with this, that's totally fine. Let me give you an example of the simple little letter. This is for the person who does not want to sell, not interested at all. You finish your phone calls and you fill out your lead sheets and then you go through the people you've spoken to. So maybe you made 30 calls and you talked to 4 people. That's an average, 5 people. If they didn't want to sell, this is the letter. Go ahead and modify it once you get it, make it your own. Don't forget to put a banner at the bottom of the letter. Does everyone know what a banner is? That's your email signature, your beautiful JPEG email signature, or something like it. You put it at the bottom of all your letterhead, right? Super important, all right? And then you put your phone number, of course, still here in your signature, but you put your banner at the bottom. It's called branding. Dear James and Karen, it was such a pleasure speaking to you regarding your property at. Attached, please find some information about me and my team and how I obtain top dollar for my clients' properties. That's your listing book that Whitney and Zach have made for you guys, right? In the meantime, please feel free to call me anytime at or email me at. Thank you again. And I look forward to the possibility of serving you in the future. Now, isn't that lovely? Okay. That's for the person who doesn't want to sell. This is the first cementing of collateral. Phone call, letter with the little book. If you don't want the little book, that's okay. But that's the key. The key is get something to their home. Some of you just do a handwritten note, that's your business. But you've got to get something to them that's marketing. Some of you have a one-page flyer about yourself. Great. I'm going to go ahead and close this and give you the next item. Okay. This is for the seller that is interested in finding out what their house is worth, but they won't let you come over. They won't let you come over yet, okay? Either it's too far out or they're just interested in finding out how much their home is worth. This is that letter. Same opening. Attached, please find the market analysis of your property's current value. Please review the enclosed analysis. Give me a call so we can review the information and answer any questions you may have. I can be reached at. As a top real estate professional, I will market your property to get top dollar in the shortest amount of time with a hassle-free transaction. Again, you can change this to sound like you. As your local real estate professional, I will successfully manage the sale of your home and handle all aspects of the sale while communicating to you every step of the way. This is standard Mike Ferry language. Thank you for allowing me to present the attached comparative market analysis. I look forward to the possibility of serving you. Okay? Lovely professional letter. And behind this is your listing book and your CMA. All right. So what is that listing book? It looks like this, everybody. All of you have one in PDF form. For those of you who want to print it out, Zach gets them printed for a very cost-effective price. Here's your listing present. It's the first half of the listing presentation, right? I don't want to get into seller mastery here, but this is the first part of the listing presentation, and the cloud CMA is the second part of the listing presentation. So this is just more of a pre-listing package. All of you have one of these. Zach or Whitney have made one for you. If you lost it, reach out to them. They'll resend it to you. Just gorgeous, professional, and beautiful piece. Can you email this? Of course you can. Of course you can. And then last but not least, there is a cloud CMA that you would do, and this is the top and bottom of the cloud CMA. So you go in, you do your little CMA in the MLS, you hit cloud CMA, you go through that process, and I have a class on cloud CMA, and then you have the cover of it. Isn't that beautiful? It looks just like your listing book, except it says comparative, and then it has the last page, which has suggested price ranges for the person's house, okay? So real simple, real simple. That's all you need to get out. I'm gonna stop my share now. That's called collateral material. I guarantee you, those of you who have been in my classes for years, they're not gonna throw it away. They'll throw away the postcard, remember, 5 times before you're branded. Someone will throw your postcard in the trash 5 times before they know who you are. And that's fabulous, but that's branding. But this, they will not throw away. You send it to them. It's beautiful. You put it in your little envelope. You stamp your little return. There's so many ways to do it very cost effectively. And for those people that were not interested, they got the letter and the little book. For people who were interested, they're getting a full package. You know, you can drop it off on the doorstep if you choose. You just can't throw it in their mailbox. That's against the law, so don't do that, okay? You can either drop it off at the doorstep or mail it out. It's your choice, depending on how far it is. And that's the collateral. They have to get something that has your branding so they can connect the phone call Wednesday to the package Friday that shows up in the mail. Got it? This is really important. Then from that day forward, that person gets a postcard from you every single month or something in the mail. That person gets an email on a smart plan, right? We have those smart plans in command. Once a month, they're getting an email. That person's getting a happy holiday email once a month. You're going to friend them on Facebook unless they don't have a Facebook page. And then you've got it. Now you're connecting at all levels. Before I continue, are there any questions about this?
I just want to make a comment. So I just started doing circle prospecting last week, and I've got like 25 to 30 contacts made, and I'm putting them all through the 8x8. You still recommend doing that?
That's completely, if somebody wants to sell, the 8x8 is good. If somebody doesn't want to sell, you know, it might be a little much. That's completely up to you, Sean. The 8x8 digital is great, and digital marketing is fabulous, but they will have to revert to a 12 direct or a 33 touch, and that includes a once a month email that Zach's already created for you. It's called Seller 1 through, there's 2 Seller smart plans, and there is a holiday email. So that's what we call a 33 touch, 24 emails, right? And then a few phone calls in the year, right? So 12 direct mailers, 24 emails, you're at 36 already, and then a couple of phone calls a year. That's kind of like a full plan. Once a month postcard, 2 emails a month, one's a holiday, one's something else, and a couple of phone calls a year for someone who's not interested. For somebody who is interested, you can fast track them a little sooner with an 8x8 at the beginning. The key is make it simple. Once a month, they get something. If you talk to them and they're a seller and they're not interested, they still get something from you once a month. You talk to a seller and they are interested, they still get something from you once a month in mail. And they still get 1 to 2 emails a month from you in email. Okay? That's the relationship. Now you're becoming part of what's going on. And this is where you get the come list me call months later, a year later, 2 years later, because they've been getting all your stuff. And that's where most agents drop the ball because the person says, I don't want to sell. Now, somebody who's really short on the phone and you didn't feel good about the call and they don't want to sell, you don't have to put them in command. That's a personal decision, right? But everybody is a lead. So the more you have in there, the more chances you're going to have of that 5%. So 500 seller leads in the system who have some interest in selling in the next couple of years, you're going to get 5% of those for sure. The not mets, the percentage is a little lower. It's like 1 to 2%. So 1 or 2 out of every 100 of the not mets, of the people that you met, people that weren't interested will still sell. So I really feel strongly that if you had a conversation, you put them in your database. If they don't want to sell, they're a seller met. If they do want to sell, they're a seller prospect. Okay? Super important. If you guys need help with your tags, reach out to Whitney. She'll be able to help you, or Zach, and they will help you to make sure you have a MET tag in there if you don't know how to put one in your system. But that's the trick. The collateral material has to go out quickly after the phone call, like next day, worst case next day. So your routine starts to become acquire the phone numbers, make the calls, log the lead sheets, send the collateral, prepare the collateral material, send it out the door, put them into command, put them on a smart plan. You don't have to database enter them the same day. Remember we talked about that? You don't need to be in that database every day. If you have an assistant, fine. But if you don't have an assistant, you can do that once a week. As I recommend, you go into the database once a week, 2-3 hours, you put everything in that you did the week before. All right. But the collateral material's got to go out quickly because they're going to forget who you were in 2 days. So you really got to remember to get that out the door. Then they connect the phone call to the collateral. And that first piece of collateral cements the relationship. All right. So this is the most important thing I can tell you about seller prospecting. Door knocking is exactly the same way. It's just a little easier because when you're talking to somebody and you're door knocking, you have a much better chance of being able to see the inside of the home, right? When you're door knocking and you're having a relationship. Those of us who've door knocked for years, we've been into a lot of living rooms, right? And the more living rooms we can get into, the more chances are we're going to get that listing when the time comes. So door knocking, there's a much greater efficacy of the connection because you're able to stand on the porch and have the conversation, or out in the front yard and have the conversation. But cold calling is obviously efficient because it's quick and you can get through a lot more people than you can in door knocking, because in the valley we've got about 44 homes on each block. So door knocking takes longer, right, to get through, but it's very effective. As Aaron Schreier, I don't know if Aaron, our assistant team leader, Aaron, are you on this call? I thought I saw you on there. Aaron's probably, one of our best door knockers, Paris Asadian, L. Jones, people that have been door knocking for years. They're brilliant at it. And they will all tell you they get listings 2, 3, 4 years later because they cemented the relationship and their phone just rings with one after another, someone they door knocked 3 years ago. Right? So it's really exciting to mix up the cold calling and the door knocking. Maybe you'll door knock your geographic farm and you'll cold call circle prospecting, right? So you guys have to figure out that activity, but you have to do it every week. But the fortune is in the follow-up. And that's what I wanted to focus on today, was the fortune in the follow-up. The script is easy. It's an opening dialogue. You just got to get over it and do the script. You're either going to get a no, you're going to get a hang up, you're going to get a I'm never going to sell, you're going to get a we might sell in 2 years. You're going to get a variety of responses. So the goal is if you can keep them on the phone long enough to build a little bit of rapport naturally and effervescently, you will be able to then get that permission to mail out the package. Okay? And that's really, really important. The package that goes out, whatever that is for you, whether it's just a letter, whether it's a handwritten note, whether it's a really cool full package with a letter and the book, or a full CMA with the letter, the book, and the CMA. The more collateral material that's branded, the better chances you are of having cemented the relationship, right? And then it just becomes a staying in touch. Now, how often should we call somebody who doesn't want to sell? They were interested in talking to us, but they don't want to sell. How often should we phone call them? Anyone?
Quarterly.
You can do quarterly. Depends on the answer. I would say if they absolutely have no interest in selling and you get the collateral material out and you're doing the postcard every month, you can call once every 6 months, right? If there was some minute interest in maybe someday will sell, maybe, but not, certainly not now, then it would be definitely a quarterly call, right? So it's really, you've got to gauge it quarterly or every 6 months. So either every 3 months, you book it on your command, you add the task on command, and you put that phone call in, just checking in, seeing how you're doing, and you're able to have a conversation with them. Absolutely. Quarterly is ideal. It just depends on reading the temperature of that person on the first call. If they were friendly, quarterly. If they weren't so friendly, every 6 months. And I'm talking about the people that don't want to sell. Don't want to sell. The people that do want to sell, quarterly is a must, Parisa. Quarterly is a
Question on the ones who don't want to sell, when you were earlier talking about, the follow-up communication moving forward, would it be sufficient if I didn't want to send a postcard to those who don't want to sell, but did 2 emails a month and you had said at least a few calls per month?
Okay, great.
Is that right? Did I understand that? That was seller met all the people I've sent to?
Calls. It was
Oh.
2 emails. It was quarterly calls, right?
Quarterly, that's right.
If you're not going to do the mailer, whether it's a letter or a postcard, here's where the
Mhm.
difference is. The more layers you have, the more stickiness you have, right? So our rule has always been mail, walk, call, email. And email includes social media, right? So it really comes down to a financial decision and a budget decision. There isn't without question that the people that have an interest in selling, whether it's the end of this year, 2022 or 2023, if they've told you we're going to sell when my husband retires in 2024, that has to get a postcard every month. It has to. If they're like, no, I'm never selling, you're still doing well with the emails and the calls. You're just going to have a little bit less efficacy, because we know the seller mets, they add up very quickly, don't they? And it could become an outrageously unproductive means of financial management. It's a personal decision. For those of you who call like crazy and you talk to 5 a day times 3 days a week, that's 15 I'm never going to sell a week. That's going to add up to 60 a month. That's going to be $30 a month in postcards every month more, right? So it'll be 30, 60, 90, $100 a month, 120. That could get expensive, but that's a prospecting and marketing conversation that you have to have with yourself, right? You have to make that decision. But without question, the seller mets that turned into prospects. A prospect is anyone who's going to sell and gave you a time frame. That person has to get something in the mail, because you're going to miss the efficacy and someone else is going to take that list.
So I have a question.
It's a financial decision that you need to make. Yes, go.
What about door knocking for someone who says we are not selling? How often should I door knock?
Okay, great question. Door knocking is an art form. So what you have to do, what's really important, especially if you have a little farm like 500, door knocking is really easy to track it on a map. Okay, you can go make a little map and go blow it up at Staples, and you can mark it up in your little office. You should.
I use the app, the lawyer, but I'm already using the app, the lawyer's title.
Right. So if you update the app and say that the mobile touch app, if you're using the mobile touch app, you should touch base with them regularly, but probably not every month. Okay. So if they've already met them, your goal is to meet the people that you haven't met in door knocking, right? Going back to the people that you've already spoken to, that becomes a secondary priority. When would you go back to people you've met already? If you're doing a food drive, if you're doing a garage sale for the neighborhood, if you're doing some sort of an event or a contest, then of course you're going back to everybody. But if you're just doing your regular door knocking, you want to get through all the people you haven't met first.
Well, I told them whoever I met, and it was nice. Again, yesterday was my first time. I told them that I'll be back next week with a gift, and they were all very happy. So
of course you can do that. If you're dropping off note cards, tchotchkes, you can go as many times as you want. But I'm talking about having the conversation about selling their home. If they've already told you no, they'll just be part of your door knocking general stuff, not necessary to have the same conversation again. Does that make sense? Because now you're in a relationship. You're in a relationship and you need to build the relationship over time. And Elle Jones, I don't know whether you're on the phone today, but Elle was, she's been a brilliant door knocker for many years on Harma's team, and she really builds the relationship in her farm. And that is how she gets her phone calls all the time, because she knows everyone there. So your job, if you're a door knocker, is to get to know the neighborhood. They all need to know you. They really need to know who you are.
Right. I went in the morning and I also talked to the people who walk their dogs.
Of course, of course. There's people watering lawns, walking dogs. We're getting into a great time of year. Door knocking season is April through October, and it's fabulous. And people really, really enjoy it. They're out there late afternoons, mornings, whatever time you decide to do it. But the point of today's conversation is that whatever the activity is, door knocking, calling, or combination, the fortune is in the follow-up. And this is what happens to agents. They don't put the people in, and they forget who they are. You forget them, they forget you, because they said, no, I'm not interested today, right, in selling my home. So please make sure you have a nurture and cultivate plan. And what really is great is that as they become, yes, I might sell in 2022, you should put them as an opportunity in your command, right? A listing opportunity, and list them as cultivate, just so that you don't forget about them, or mark them with a special tag called, you know, a power person, whatever it is you want to do. The point is your notes are going to be critical. So make sure in the description field of command under about that you write a very large description of the first conversation, because you're going to forget them. And as you cold call a lot, you're going to forget the conversations you had with these people. Trust me, in 3 months, you don't remember who you spoke to. So it's important that you click the About tab after you put their information into command, and then write a book about the first conversation, everything you can remember. That's why the lead sheet is so important. It's so important to use a lead sheet. Those are also listed in the Advanced Prospecting and Marketing Google Drive. A lead sheet is really important. And I don't care if you use a notepad to do it or whether you use a lead sheet. It doesn't matter to me. The point is that after the call is over, or after the door knock is over, you're writing it down, because you're not going to be in the computer all day data entering. That's a bad use of your time every day. You can do that once a week. You're writing down all the information and putting it into a tray. Those of you who coach with me know you have to have a tray. You throw it in the tray, and then once a week you enter everything into command. You put them on a smart plan. You add the neighborhood page. You get them on the neighborhood nurture, right? The seller prospecting smart plan, and anything else that you think is appropriate. That's the important part. So if you guys understand something's got to go in the mail, you've got to fill out a lead sheet. You've got to get them into command. You've got to put the description in there. You're going to put them on the email campaign. You're going to Facebook friend them. That's why all those checkbooks are at the bottom of the lead sheet. There's these little check marks of what you did. That stuff is super important, but you don't do that on prime time. That's why you do that once a week or in the evenings. So this is what builds the pipeline. And one day you're going to look at your pipeline in a few months, and you're going to see 300 seller Mets and 5 seller prospects. Exciting. So now you're building this big pipeline up. And so if you all understand the follow-up, that's the most important part of it. So door knocking, cold calling, social farming, all the ways that you're going to find sellers. Expireds, those of you that do expireds, the NOD list for those of you who are going to be working the NODs, for sale by owners. I've got letters for all of those in the Google Drive. I just showed you the general 2 seller letters, the one that doesn't want to sell, the one that might want to sell. So it's very important that you guys understand that you've got to book the time, you got to book the administrative time to both look up the numbers and put them into the database and do the lead sheets and send out the material. People don't book that administrative time, and they find themselves just cold calling ad nauseum. And then what are you going to do with all that? You got to turn it into money. You've got to turn it into something. All right. So the administrative back end is equally as important as the calls themselves. Does anyone have any questions? Because I know I've gone over a couple of minutes here.
Good job.
Go ahead.
I don't know if there's any more questions, but it was an amazing turnout today, and great that it actually Thursday, your weekly Thursday coaching fell on your birthday. So happy birthday, Veronica! And I
Thank
just
you.
everybody
Happy birthday.
yourself.
Happy birthday.
Happy
Birthday,
birthday.
Happy birthday.
Birthday.
Happy birthday, Veronica.
Happy
Happy
Birthday.
birthday.
Happy birthday, Veronica.
Happy
Thank you so
birthday.
much.
Love you, Veronica. Happy birthday.
Hope you have a
Thank
great
you.
one.
Happy birthday.
Thank you. Next week, we're going to be talking
Happy
prospecting.
Happy birthday.
We are lucky you were born.
Yes.
So much. Thank you, everybody. You're so kind. I hope this class was useful for you. Please
That was
go
cute.
back and do it again so you don't forget the steps, okay? Don't forget the steps. The fortune is in the follow-up. The script is the easy part, right? And kick into the Google Drive and you'll see all this stuff on there. Email me directly if you didn't get the documents that were in the chat box. All right, everyone?
Thank you.
Until next Thursday. See you
Happy
then.
birthday.
Happy
Thank
birthday.
you.